Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first episode, or first devlog rather, of the Dogs with No Cage game. So basically, this is just going to be a little series that goes over a game I'm working on this semester for my senior capstone project. Which the idea actually started when I was in high school, in sophomore year of high school, so about 5 years ago. And I was watching a lot of shonen anime, that kind of thing, and I just wanted to make my own shonen story. It ended up actually being a lot more inspired by the Castlevania series and Avatar and that kind of thing, more Western animes in that kind of way. But yeah, so from there it kind of grew. I started to learn how to draw, which you can see here. A lot of this is some of my older work, and I think you can tell some of it's a little bit more on the rough side, but I've improved a lot in 5 years, so some of it looks a little better. But yeah, so it originally started out just a lot of art pieces. Eventually, about 2 years ago, I made a Twine game based around one of the characters in the story. And then now I'm finally getting to work on a video game for it, so that's pretty exciting. You see here actually is one of the main characters in the game. His name's Komori. He's in this image he's got modern clothes on, but in the game he'll have more traditional Korean clothes on. He's a Korean character. And then the next character coming up is Amon, and he is more inspired by ancient Middle Eastern culture. So whether that be like Egyptian or a little later history like Iran, like the Persian Empire, that kind of thing. That's what I'm going for with this character. He's an ex-soldier and he's from a royal family with like superpowers, that kind of thing. So he'll be the second main character in the game. So let's move on to the game design document for the game. We'll start with the art inspiration for the game because that's where a lot of the time and effort will be, even though I might contract actually some work out for that. This first link is a link to Middle Eastern fashion, specifically like ancient Middle Eastern fashion, just so I can nail down Amon's design. And then the second link I'll show off is a Pinterest board I made for the game. So it has some images for Amon's design, for Komori's design, and then how I want the enemies to look in the game, and then how I want the level I want to build for the end of the year to look like in the game. So yeah, just have some fashion references for Amon there. And then Komori's board is a similar thing, looking at the Korean Imperial Guards. I know they have a specific name, but I can't remember off the top of my head. And then for the enemies, the game is based off generally like a Chinese aesthetic, Chinese culture. So I actually took inspiration from the movie Red Cliff because that's one of my favorite movies. So that's what a lot of that board is. And then finally, that level board is based on Chinese tombs because that's where the level is going to take place. So yeah, we'll move on to the game pitch here. So the game pitch is just like a short little advertisement for the game pretty much, which just highlights like the world and then who you're playing as and then the point of the story. I just wrote a little kind of a standard action game pitch just for fun. And then we'll move on to the overview. So the genre is a 2D search action game, which is just a Castlevania, but me and my professor don't like using that word because it's a little too general, or it's just kind of inaccurate. So 2D search action game is what I went with. Demographics, still kind of figuring that one out, but 18 plus for now. Monetization will be through Steam, hopefully. Hopefully the game will release early summer of next year on PC, but no guarantees. We're still very, very early. This is only week 2. And then moving on to the theme and the setting, I just go into a little more about the world building and then who you're actually playing as, like who Komori is, who Amon is, what kind of superpowers that they have, and the limits on those powers, because I think that's pretty important. And then the next thing I'll go over is the project scope. So this is just really who's working on what. Because this is a solo project, it's really only me. If I had more people on the project, I'd divvy up the work in this part of the document, but it's really only me. There's some names under there for art as well. That's not confirmed or anything, but that's a possibility. So some contract work there, and then some friends I might look to for work. And then for the gameplay, I just kind of outline some standard Castlevania-like gameplay. Don't want to go too overboard with the mechanics, just because it's just me on programming, and with the due date being what it is, I don't want to go too overboard with what is in the game and then not be able to finish it in a reasonable amount of time. And then the next thing is I just map out what those controls will look like. So your standard WASD. I'm not actually using S yet. I don't see the point as of right now, so leaving that one out. Some combat controls, and then some controls for puzzles, which I think will change just because I want the puzzles to be a little more complicated than just hitting one button. So we'll see how that adapts over time. Definitely through these devlogs too, so that'll be interesting. Here's a little concept for the UI, possibly when you're in like combat and that kind of thing. Not loving it. I think the layout could be a little better with the spacing and where stuff is. So gonna change that going forward. And then we get into the fun stuff, which is the levels, the mapping those out. So I have the opening of the game. I kind of want that to be more of a cutscene than it is playable, just kind of like Castlevania Rondo of Blood, if you've played that. I love that cutscene. Although my cutscenes, I kind of want to do them more painterly than pixel art, so we'll see. We'll see how I do that. And then not making level 1 by the end of the year, but level 2 is going to be the goal. That's kind of a game design technique where you start with more of your mechanics in the middle, and then you work your way backwards and then forwards as well. And that just makes development go a little faster, and you don't run into some scope issues. That's a common thing when you start from the beginning. So I'm outlining the objectives of the level, the scenery, and then a little bit of the history. So did a lot of research this week, lots of hours of research actually, on ancient Ming Dynasty tombs. Originally, my Pinterest board had a lot of like French catacombs on there, and obviously that doesn't make sense if the cultural aesthetic is going to be China. So did a lot of research, making sure I don't get that wrong, because I think that would be a little disrespectful, that kind of thing. And then after history, I'm going to go and show like what assets I might want to look at for paid assets. So just a couple links. Don't have my sound effects lined up yet, but I'll probably contract those out as well. I'm not really a sound guy. I've got my paid assets, and then some links to those historical resources I mentioned. Well, if you made it this far, and you know me personally, this is going to be your reward. I'll just show off me testing my dialogue system. It's still pretty rough. Everything's pretty much just placeholders, but this will be the rough layout. So I just tried to do my best impression of Mesmer from Elden Ring, and just see if the audio recordings worked in the game, and if you could like cut off the sound if you hit the continue button. So enjoy this incredibly embarrassing moment for me and my online presence. But here it goes.
Thou tarnished, it seemeth. Mother, wouldst thou truly lordship sanction in one so bereft of light? Yet my purpose standeth unchanged. Those stripped of the grace of gold shall all meet death in the embrace of Mesmer's flame. I will not suffer a lord devoid of light. O mother, forgive me.
All right, well, we finally made it to the end. I hope you enjoyed that incredibly embarrassing moment. For me, I just kind of went over the game design document and the dialogue stuff. I think next week will be a little bit more technical, so I'll go moreover like how I built the things I built. And then hopefully we'll have maybe some more like actual gameplay and not just the dialogue. Yeah, but thanks so much for watching, especially if you made it this far. Props to you. And yeah, I'll see you guys next Sunday.